Hello. And if you're watching this for the second time, hello again. Now, my name is Dudley Diddley, and if you are watching it for the second time, my name is still Dudley Diddley. Now, I'm here to discuss this. Pardon? Oh, masculinity. A word that we're all familiar with, but what does that word actually mean? And is masculinity in crisis in the 21st century? Now, you'll notice that this word is written in a large, heavy type. And some people seem to think that for a man to be masculine, he should be of a large, heavy type. Now, masculinity has many faces, and some of them can be rather unpleasant. Just look around you. Some of them can be rather unpleasant. Just look around you and you'll see that for a man to be masculine, he doesn't have to be menacing. These two men represent both ends of the scale. Early man, 21st century man. One a simple being, not blessed with great intelligence, brutish in nature, tribal, and in complete contrast we have early man.
That's right, old bean. I'm early man. I get up at 5:30 every morning.
The original hunter-gatherer whose family survival relied on his ability to provide food on a regular basis. Luckily for him, there was an unlimited supply of cute, furry woodland animals he was able to strangle to death. Isn't that right, Gerald?
Absolutely spot on, old chap. Stalking for prey across the frozen tundra can be frightfully disagreeable. I mean, just look at what I have to wear.
Rough animal skin.
You ought to moisturize, mate.
Oh.
Throughout history, man has always fought for his castle, his home, his family, for queen and country. Is this aggressive streak still part of man's makeup?
Hey, I might moisturize, but I don't wear makeup, all right?
Masculinity was for many centuries linked with bravery, strength and brute force. Just look at the heroes of Greek mythology. Hercules, Ulysses, Achilles, Jason and the Argonauts.
I've got that on DVD.
Oh, are there any extras?
Oh yeah, loads. Mainly in the crowd scenes.
It was the golden age of heroism, when men were men, and masculinity was defined by a good strong sword arm, the ability to slay dragons, and a willingness to take on any challenge, even if it resulted in death.
It still is in some parts of Scotland.
We now move on to the Middle Ages, an era when knights in shining armour roamed the countryside righting wrongs. But medieval Britain saw the early signs that men were prepared to stay close to home and take care of their families, a trend which has followed on down the ages.
I exemplify the epitome of rugged masculinity.
I gotta be honest, you lost me at exemplify.
Like the muscle-bound heroes of ancient Greece, we possess strength and courage. But what guides our actions is the medieval system of principles and knighthood known as chivalry.
You ought to come with subtitles.
Chivalry! The act of being chivalrous means that we protect the weak and defenseless, always speak the truth, respect and honor women, and abhor bullying and the repression of the poor and needy.
I am poor and needy because I only have one small plot of land, which I have got to rent off him. I have got 1 cow, 2 goats, 3 pigs, 1 wife, and 8 children. And we all live together in a little hut.
Good grief, man. What about the smell?
Oh, it's all right. The animals are used to it by now.
Being a knight can be dangerous, but a peasant's life can be nasty, brutish, and short. Especially if that peasant happens to be short, brutish, and nasty.
In my way, I am just as masculine as he is. I do my duty as an husband and a father, and I never stray too far from our own. Unlike these knights who swan off abroad on these 2-year cruises.
I think you mean crusades.
How do you get to these crusades then?
We take a long sea voyage.
I rest my case.
If we move on to the Victorian era, masculinity was based on a man's ability to make money in the new industrial age.
We are a typical Victorian couple. This is my wife, Dorian typical, and I am Algernon typical, businessman and philanthropist.
Yes. If it wasn't for my husband's tireless efforts, thousands of little orphans wouldn't have a filthy, rat-infested factory to work in 16 hours a day.
My wife and children think I am authoritarian, devoid of emotion, and a strict disciplinarian, unable to empathize with them on any level.
But he also has his unpleasant side.
I am the head of the household, and as such, make all the important decisions that will affect my family. I never ask my wife for her opinion. In all matters, my word is final.
Would you like boiled or mashed potatoes with your supper?
Boiled or mashed? What do you think, dear?
The two world wars brought big changes for women. Whilst men were at the front, families were led by matriarchs, who also helped with the war effort, working in factories and on the land, as well as running the households. The traditional role of men was being eroded. When the 1950s began, this would be the last decade in which masculinity was defined by the pipe, the trilby, and the stiff upper lip.
The 1950s is a time of unparalleled innovation. Brenda and I have so many bright, new, shiny household appliances to choose from. We have washing machines, refrigerators, hi-fi radiograms, and vacuum cleaners. The choice is really quite bewildering, and no mistake.
In fact, Trevor finds the choice of household appliances so bewildering, he hasn't actually got round to buying me any.
I travel to town on the 8:15, 5 days a week, and work 8 hours a day in order to provide for my family and to make them happy.
We'd be a lot happier if he worked 7 days a week.
On the weekend, I mow the lawn, wash the car, and play cricket in the park with little Timmy and little Susie.
Trevor, our children are named Tommy and Sally.
Are they? Well, whatever their names are, they adore cricket in the park.
Actually, they'd quite like to watch a television occasionally, but he won't buy us one.
I refuse to purchase a television set because I do not want you to be disgusted by the young rock and rollers polluting the sanctity of our home with their hip, swiveling antics, don't you know?
I might not necessarily be disgusted.
I have a feeling that the 1950s will be the last decade in which a man will be treated like a king in his own home.
And I have a feeling that the 1950s will be the last decade in which a woman is treated as a slave in her own home.
Men and women equals? Do you really think that could happen?
It already has. Fancy a pint?
The staid 1950s made way for the decadent 1960s, which was a hotbed of social and economic change. The decade would have a massive impact on masculinity. There's no doubt that the relaxed social and moral attitudes of the 1960s still resonate in society today and have created confusion amongst men, especially in their role as fathers. The family unit of mum, dad and 2.4 children, often referred to as the nuclear family, have become the unclear family. Why? Is it any wonder that men are experiencing a masculinity crisis?
Being a husband and father today isn't easy, partly due to the mixed messages sent out by the media. Take TV soaps, for instance. They often glorify hard men, ready to have a punch-up at the drop of a baseball cap. Here, are you looking at my bird? Get out of my ass before I throw you out. Shut it, you slag. Leave it, Johnny, ain't worth it. You are bang out of order. You're going to get a good slapping, my son. And that was from the Christmas Day episode.
Any male who watches that sort of aggression night after night, week after week, is bound to receive some sort of subliminal message, no matter what their age.
On the other hand, we are bombarded with media messages telling us we should strive to be new men, unafraid of getting in touch with our more feminine side.
And have you been in touch with your feminine side?
No. Oh, apart from the time I wore one of my wife's old dresses on a stag do.
Oh, you must have received some strange looks.
Yeah, and half a dozen phone numbers.
See, today's man in many cases is still the main provider. He goes to work to earn money, to feed and house his family. So he is in effect a hunter-gatherer, just like his early ancestor.
The big difference is, I moisturize.
Can men adapt traditional perceptions of masculinity to modern society? There is an expectation that to be manly, you must be brave, daring, and cool under fire. However, masculinity is inexorably linked with maturity. Men might be stronger than women and have louder voices, but a real man knows he can't win every argument and must be mature enough to know when it's time to stop emphasizing and start empathizing. There will be occasions when greater things will be asked of a man. Tasks to feel unnatural to you must be borne with good humour and unlimited patience. You may often feel like a useless dad, but your guiding hand will be warm, supportive, and appreciated by a child in years to come. As you can see, there are times when grown men cry. Just wait until that baby's 14 and ask dad for help with his maths homework. See, nurturing children isn't just a job for mum. Fathers play a crucial role in a child's educational, emotional and social development, teaching lifelong values of faith, honesty and justice. Just doing everyday things with your child is a value you can't put a price on, even playtime. It's clear that masculinity today is a minefield of contradictions. But on a day-to-day basis, man can only strive to do his best as a husband, partner, or father to the ones that look up to him for guidance in a confusing world.
I know I do my best.
If we can do all that, then 21st century man will leave his own special mark behind, just like the heroes of ancient Greece.
And the chivalrous knights of the Middle Ages. Modern man could do worse than follow our standards of integrity, virtue, and incorruptibility.
There you go again with your highfalutin words. I tell you what, I'm glad I got my big stick with me.
Why?
Because now I can go night clubbing.
In an era when all the world's evils, war, death, destruction, and daytime TV are blamed on men, isn't it time we all stood together, redefined masculinity, and worked towards a better world? Well, I hope you found my talk both informative and entertaining. And if you do want more information on masculinity today, then please ask Dad by visiting our website on www.dadtalk.co.uk. Thank you for listening.
And lads, don't forget to moisturise.